Welcome to Kojo's Math. And today we're going to be talking about mean, median, and mode, and then a little bit about statistics and surveys. You're going to need to know all of these definitions and all these vocabulary terms. So as we're learning the video, you should be thinking about the terms that I'm using in the vocab, and I expect you to know them. So after the video, you should review them and make sure you have a good understanding of them. So the mean, median, and the mode should be a basic review. If it's not, don't panic, but it should stir some memories. So the mean is an average. So when I do your test average or your quiz average, I'll say that you got 14 points out of 35. So 14 out of 35 would give me a percentage, and I would divide that. Now, most of these averages you might be dealing with where the numbers in the top are larger than the bottom. So we're not talking about test averages here, because when we talk about test averages, very rarely do you get more points than what you're given unless it's a bonus. So with the mean, it's an average. And remember, stop and start the video as you need to write down, take notes, because I'm just going to keep talking. But that's where you take all the numbers that you have, and you add them all up together, and then you divide by the number that you have. So if I have 5 speeds for 5, I run a lap around the track, and I have 5 different speeds for that. Well, a lap around the track is 400 meters. Oy, I don't think I could get around it in a minute, maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get around a lap around the track. But let's say I had 5 different times for running a lap. So I would add all those times up and then divide by 5 to see what my average time. As I run more, I'm probably going to get slower, but I want to get the average that I ran for the time. The median is where you line up all the data in numerical order and you take the center point. It's the point that divides the data in half. And the data is always the information you have that you're finding, that you're comparing. It could be wind speeds, it could be temperatures, it could be times, it could be how much money I spent over 5 days, or so on and so forth. But you line up the data in numerical order from smallest to largest, and you go to the center point. If you have an odd number of data, it's the one right in the middle. It's easy. But if you have an even number of data, we're going to talk about that in a second, because there is no one in the middle. And then the mode is the piece of data, it's the information that occurs the most. If you only have one of each, you have no mode. So if I spent $3 on Monday, $4 on Tuesday, $5 on Wednesday, $6 on Thursday, I have 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all different. That means I have no mode. Mode is when I have one occurring the most. So if I spent $3 on Monday, $3 on Tuesday, $4 on Wednesday, $5 on Thursday, I had 3, 3, 4, 5, then the mode is, that's right, 3, because 3 occurs the most. All right, so here's a sample of it. And here's a set of data, 17, 30, 38, 38, and 42. And I already had it in numerical order. That's unusual. That's not typically going to happen. But to get the mean or the average, you add the 5 numbers together. You take the sum, 17 plus 30 plus 38 plus 38 plus 42. Then you divide by the number of data. We have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fractions stand for division. We've talked about that. To show your work, you show it as a fraction. When we add these 5 numbers up, we get 149, and we divide it by 5. You can do that on your calculator, but you write it as a decimal. 29.8 is the answer. Now, if you look at the mode, we see which one occurs the most. It's 38. So 38 is our mode. We'll talk about what these numbers mean in another day, but right now I just want you to understand how to use them, how to work with the terms. Then the median you write in order, which we did. Then you go to the center point. There's 5 numbers. So the one right in the middle is the median. So that would be 38. Pretty straightforward. until we get to a situation where, what if we only have 4 numbers? Well, to find the mean, we're going to add these 4 up and divide by 4. That's the average. So we get 28 divided by 4 if we add those 4 numbers up. We write it as a fraction, and then we say the average is 7. The only difference is if I give you units with these numbers, and I tell you that this is how much money I spent every day this week, then I would have dollars signs next to that. And your answer would have to have the units in the final answer. So I would have to have the average is $7 that I spent every day. That's the average over 4 days. But now let's look at the mode. All of these occur one time. If there's nothing that occurs more than anything else, there is no mode. If this said 6, 6, 10, 10, 8, 8, and 4, 4, there's still no mode because they're all occurring the same amount. So mode is when it occurs the most. But now with the median, we put them in numerical order, smallest to largest, 4, 6, 8, and 10. We go to the middle, and there is no middle. When there is no middle, you still need a median. To get that, you take the 2 numbers that are closest to the middle. In this case, it's 6 and 8. These 2. You always add them together. So 6 plus 8 is 14. And you divide by 2. And that will give you the median. And the median would be 7. So the median of this is 7. Sometimes it's a decimal. Sometimes these numbers are not that close. It could be 17 and 52 when you organize your data. If it's 17 and 52 in the middle, you add 17 plus 52 and divide it by, that's right, 2, and you show it as a fraction. Now, here's where I just wrote one for mode. You have 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, and 5. That's a set of data. So the mode is the one that occurs the most. It can be, you can have no mode that we saw before. You can have one mode, or you can have more than one mode. In this case, we have 3 modes because 1 only occurs once, 5 only occurs once, but 2, 3, and 4 occur twice each. So they're all modes. 2, 3, and 4 are all modes. I just want to make sure you understood that. Now, this might be new to you, and you have to learn these vocab words too. This is when we're talking about statistics. When we use mean, median, and mode, we usually use it when we're doing surveys. Not always, but when we're doing surveys. To take a survey, you have to go and ask a group of people, like you may say, what's your favorite ice cream? Okay? But you have a population that you're going to look at. You may say, I want to ask the boys' middle school between chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, what's their favorite ice cream? Or, given today's health consciousness, you might say that I'm going to ask the boys' middle school, do you like regular ice cream, yogurt, or is there a different one? Froyo? No, it's Yozit. Froyo. You might just do 2. You might do regular ice cream or frozen yogurt. Or you might ask for different brands that you like. But you would ask all of the boys in the middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Or you might just ask the 6th graders, but you would ask them all. Or you might go and you might stand outside a grocery store and try to target all children under a certain age, no teenagers, like kids under 10, where you would kind of be looking in a visual. So that's gathering data. Whatever group you look at, or you might only ask the adults, not children, what with ice cream, if they prefer ice cream or frozen yogurt. Whatever you decide you're going to survey, that's called your population. That's the group that you're asking the question. It might be that we're not talking about ice cream. It could be different things. Like if you go to the mall and you're asking people what they're there shopping for. Are they looking for electronics or clothes or makeup or shoes or something to that effect? Where you just stop random people, but the population would be the people in the mall. But now, when you are surveying, there's no way that you can survey everybody. When we're surveying a specific group like the Boys Mill School, we could survey everybody. But if you're going to the mall, you can't, because you can't stay there every day and get everybody that comes to the mall to get your answers. So you can't, sometimes you can't survey everybody in the population. The political votes, when they're trying to say who are you going to vote for, they call people on the phone and they say, who are you voting for? And they can't survey everybody in America. They don't, there'll be millions of calls, and then not everybody's there. So what you do is you take samples. So you get a sample of the population. So you have a population is the group of people that you're going to survey. So that's usually, you can't just say the whole population of the country because not everybody can vote. So you would only be going for people who can vote, but then they break that down into 18 to 21-year-olds and 25 to 35-year-olds. They can break that population any way they want, or they can just call people at random and say by the household according to the zip code, which is, we'll get into that. So you take these samples, you're only taking a part of the population that you're going to ask the survey, because you can't ask everybody. Then there's two kinds of samples. There's a random sample and a biased sample. A random sample is where everybody in the population that I've chosen has the opportunity to be picked from me. That's where I do random generations of computer, like for instance, when Miss Campbell does the lunchroom tables, she puts it into a program that randomly assigns tables. That's a random sample that comes out of the population that we have. Now, the population is defined because it's just the 6th grade boys, but it breaks it into groups and categories randomly. So everybody has the same opportunity to be put on a table because the computer's just throwing names together. That's called a true random sample. Then you have what they call a biased sample. A biased sample is where not everybody has the same opportunity to be together. That would be like if I sat down and had the group of 6th graders and I was going to make lunch tables. I went through and specifically put people together. Then not everybody has the same opportunity to be with someone because I'm making the decision. So how does that work in a survey? If it's biased, that means I'm only going to ask the people, all right, so what if you're surveying to see what people's income is for the year, or what are their professions? And you only went to a college graduation, and you ask people, what is your profession? Because your goal is to see how many people are professionals and how many people went to college. Well, if you go to a college graduation and you ask there, that's a biased sample, because you're only getting, everybody just went to college, so they all have degrees, so they all went to college. You have to ask the population where you get a group of people, who you can get a group of people so that could become from everywhere, that didn't go to college, that did go to college. So you have to, where would you might do that? At a football game, at an Alliance game. You could stand outside and just ask random people as they come through. That would be giving everybody who's going to the Lions game an opportunity to answer your question. It's still somewhat biased, but it depends on your population. There's people who go to the Lions game who didn't go to college. There's people who go to the Lions game who did go to college. But you're defining the population, and you have a greater chance of getting the answers that are not biased. Whereas if I went to a college graduation and said, how many of you went to college? They're all going to say, we all went to college, because you went to a college graduation. That's biased. You're getting the answer you want. I surveyed 100 people, and 100 people went to college. I'm proving that people go to college. Well, that's a biased sample. So I want you to write down 2 questions, 2 things you learned, and 1 question. And I will see you in class soon to do this. So you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.